Hey everybody, it's Paula from Big Green Pen, and I'm here to talk with you about the blog post I wrote yesterday. It has been so much fun. I guess you could name it a couple of things, but I've had fun discussing this with some people whose opinion I really trust. This is a blog post. The situation set off many buttons for me, which is why it was over 2,000 words long, but it was worth discussing, and having been an internship coordinator and having been at places with dress codes, haven't we all? There were so many little tentacles of the piece that it probably could have grown even longer. The situation was that an intern wrote Allison Green of Ask a Manager. I actually first saw it in Yahoo style, but it linked back to Allison's Ask a Manager post and said, I got an internship at an organization in an industry I want to work in. I don't deal with customers directly, but I'm required to have a formal dress code, specifically leather shoes. I don't know what the whole dress code was, but formal, probably business suits and looking really dressed up. The author of the letter to Ask a Manager said, we disagreed with this and wanted some more leniency in the dress code. Several of the interns asked their managers for leniency and were told no. When those several interns got the no answer, they organized themselves, created a proposal, and petitioned their employer for a more lax dress code. One of the points they made is that they had seen another coworker wearing tennis shoes and shoes that didn't fit within that dress code because they were non-leather. If we need visual aids, we have dress shoes and tennis shoes, because running shoes we've got at my house. What happened next? All of the interns, hey Paula, except for the one person who did not sign it, the one intern, were dismissed. They were told, clean out your desk, turn in your security badge, and you are out of here. The writer to Ask a Manager asked if that had been fair and made several points about why they should have been given leniency, why their proposal should have worked, why they should have gotten a different answer, and how now they are facing the conundrum of, hey Tracy, of no internship and having to make a different decision or having to take a different route now that they've lost that opportunity. It was clearly an overreach for me. Once they had been told no, the petition was, to me, not a choice that would be effective, or hey Dee Dee, or it'd be, wow, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I know you work with, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but this particular author was a millennial, but this is not an all millennials issue, and it's not limited to millennials. But anyway, an overreach because they'd been told no. I honestly probably wouldn't have asked the first time, and I have to say I see part of this through the filter of the fact that Tenley just did the Disney College program, and if you want to see specific appearance rules, work for Disney and be a cast member, because young men have had to go get haircuts before they'll be approved to work. Young women have had to get their hair tone evened out because there was too much variation. There have been eyeglasses turned away because they have to be very basic. Some kids put a lot of pancake type makeup on their tattoos every day so that they're covered up, or they make some other alteration so that their tattoos aren't showing. And the thing there is that there are so many applicants for this Disney College program that if you don't want to follow those rules, that's fine, but there are so many other kids who want that spot that if you've gotten the spot, you will probably abide by the rules. And no matter what you think, it's fair, it's not fair, this is crazy, you do it. And I am pretty sure most of the Disney College program kids and alumni I've known would argue that that experience paid off for them in so many ways in the future, even if they had to do dress code and appearance modifications when they were in the program. One of the authors to Ask a Manager had a whole little tangent about how I wrote it so well. I wrote my proposal like they taught me in school, and I think that's one of the real beauties of an internship is that it teaches you that intersection between what you learn academically in school and all of the things that happen in the real world that they can't ever teach you in school. It's not enough to write it well. You have to understand chains of command. You have to understand the right way to present your, hey Bob. You have to understand the way to present your issue, the time, the manner, the words to use, and whether or not you should present your issue at all. As it turns out, one of their issues, as I said, was that they had a coworker who was not wearing dress code compliant shoes. It turns out that this coworker was a former soldier who had lost her leg in combat serving our country. And of course she was given an accommodation. And the author of the letter to Ask a Manager said, if I'd known that, I would have figured that into my proposal. But the thing is, I suspect the employer was hey Deidre, trying to protect the privacy of their employee by not making a huge announcement that so-and-so is being allowed to make accommodations because of their injury. And it can be frustrating when you see someone breaking the rules, but when you're an intern, you're not necessarily the one whose place it is to point that out or to ask for accommodations to be made. I do want to stress that this is not just millennials. It is not in any way, shape, or form all millennials. I have known some millennials who were eminently more professional than baby boomers I've known, Gen X, Gen Y. They have knocked professional situations out of the park over and over again. And Allison at Ask a Manager made a point, she made an addition to the post to say that everybody who was commenting the kind of kids these days kind of post really needed to not overgeneralize, which of course is something we should take into account in all situations in our life. But I shared in my post a situation at my longtime employer, my most recent employer, where someone had an issue, hey Shannon, and they enumerated their lengthy list of issues in a single space, if I recall, letter that went anonymously to every single member of our board of directors. And the issue with this is, although there was a grain of truth, in my opinion, in the items that the anonymous author presented, that was in no way, shape, or fashion the way to go about it. That put the executive director in quite the horrible position when the board chair and members are like, why are we getting this letter? Who wrote this letter? Is this really going on there? And it was an instructive experience to me in how not to do things. And it certainly didn't help harmony at our workplace. It created more division and certainly distraction, because who's going to get any work done while they're trying to guess who wrote the letter, you know? It may have been a millennial. I will never know. I think that was 3 years ago, and I would be a poor detective, I suppose, because I don't know who wrote that letter. But it's one of those experiences in my professional life that really stands out and shows why you should do things a certain way. There's a time and a place for that kind of issue to be raised, and that was not it. So I guess my question is, I'm curious what you would do, what you think. A lot of the side discussions I've ended up having about this are kind of more specific questions, which I would love the answer to as well. What type of place was this? Were they being paid for their internship? How long had they been there? I agree, Bob. I agree. And I think, slight side note, one of the things that I've become aware of as a runner for I Run for Michael is invisible diseases as well. There are accommodations that get made in our workplaces these days, in our schools, for situations that are not visible to the human eye. The young man I run for has a mitochondrial disorder, and he needs accommodations because his body doesn't utilize energy the way ours does, and he looks like someone who wouldn't need any kind of accommodations. So again, hey Fred, again, side note, but Bob was explaining his opinion about reasonable accommodations and they should never be discussed. that there's a trust issue there, and I concur. I would be interested if you hang around and join in the comments, either here on the Facebook page or on my blog, about what you would do and if you have any experiences that relate to this. The other angle that really kind of hit home for me was the fact that choices we make at work that don't directly impact making a profit, providing the service we're there to serve, or whatever our core purpose is, takes us all away from a positive impact through that workplace. And I can only imagine how much time was spent at this place where this intern is, with the various managers with the interns themselves preparing their proposal and their petition. Did they do it on their own time? Did they take time when they were supposed to be doing whatever their company did to create this proposal? And some of that comes with, when you do business, you have to deal with human resources, for sure, but anything that either distracts you by taking you away from the core purpose, or distracts your managers and your leadership, can end up leading you down the counterproductive road. I shared one more little anecdote and experience I had in my blog. My first internship in graduate school was at the Family Life Center through Appalachia Community Mental Health, and I went to school thinking I wanted to be a family therapist. But it was a challenging situation. Maybe now if I went into it with more decades of maturity and life experience, I would deal with it better. But the supervision was minimal, and I took affront to that. I withdrew from that internship, and at the time I was told, "You're welcome back anytime, we understand." I ended up getting an internship in career planning, and big plug to the FSU Career Center, because it's a fantastic place, and I got a great training there and ended up in the internship coordination position at Fordham. So that all worked out like it was supposed to, apparently. But when I did go back and try to get my internship back at Family Life Center, and by then I was speaking to someone who was in a supervisory position over the program, and I will never ever forget him saying, "I don't have time for that." As in, I don't have time for all the extra parts of managing whatever dynamics led to you withdrawing in the first place, to retraining you to transition back in. It was really extremely disappointing at the time, and I still didn't agree, but I'm back, sorry. But he was right. And when I went on to supervise people later, I definitely understood how extremely draining it is to get distracted from the core purpose. And although things happen that have to be done that are aside from the core purpose, it can be, as I said, a disservice to the organization. Oh no, Matt. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna finish up. We might be having sound problems. Thank you so much for joining me. Big green pen, and I'll see you soon.